What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about one of the bigger fall releases, Spencer. Before we begin, let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were, if you already saw it, or if you were planning on seeing it, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's jump right into it and let's talk about Spencer. This stars Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana Spencer. During her Christmas holidays with the royal family at the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, England, Diana, struggling with mental health problems, decides to end her decades-long marriage to Prince Charles. This is written by Stephen Knight and is directed by Pablo Larraín, who previously directed another historical drama, that being Jackie. So this finds him in familiar territory. And similar to Jackie, this isn't a standard biopic that tries to cover Diana's entire life, but instead it focuses on an isolated period of time, in this case being 3 days over the holiday season. Which I was happy about, because I don't dislike biographical dramas that cover someone's entire life, but they do tend to hit a lot of the same beats. They take on a certain formula, and even a lot of the better ones tend to crumble under the fact that they try covering too much in a short period of time. Now this doesn't do that, and it allows us to spend time with these people in more of an isolated period of time, and it allows more room to have a stronger emotional impact in certain areas. So that was great. And even though it's a character-based historical drama taking place in 1991, which is wild to think that's already 30 years ago, by the way, it doesn't even feel like a straightforward historical drama all the time in terms of tone. Because with these sort of dramas, especially when focusing on royal figures, they tend to be very dry and go heavy on dialogue-based tension rather than anything eventful. But that's not always what this film goes for. I mean, there are some of those moments, mainly in these tense exchanges where Diana attempts to go somewhere on her own, only to be closely followed and interrogated by someone working in the estate, mainly Timothy Spall as the head of staff. But for the most part, this instead plays things more as a psychological thriller, with these isolated moments of Diana by herself, deep in thought, feeling riddled with anxiety over being watched by everyone around her, to the point that even if she just wants to go to the kitchen and have a piece of cake, she gets grilled by someone. And the film even uses horror-like imagery to convey some of that, though I wouldn't classify this as a horror movie. But Diana will routinely experience visions when things feel overwhelming for her, and it goes more for this body horror aesthetic. She'll imagine hurting herself by swallowing a pearl necklace, or using a wire cutter on herself, or flinging herself down a flight of stairs. And it'll make you as visibly uncomfortable as she's feeling, especially due to the harsh sound mixing. While most scenes are normally accompanied by a very unnerving, string-heavy, almost oddly jazz-like score, there will also be plenty of moments where the scene will feel so quiet otherwise that you can hear a pin drop, but then all you hear is this really gruesome noise. It's brilliantly done for the way this uses sound to play with your emotions. The only other recurring element that feels more like traditional horror is that Diana experiences visions of Anne Boleyn, who was also a highly followed royal figure of her era, and whom Diana finds a book on at the estate. And sometimes Diana will see Anne talking to her, telling her to distance herself from the rest of the family, and sometimes Diana even sees herself as Anne, again, going back to that body horror feel, which I thought was one of the film's best elements from a story perspective. But the main reason this works so well is that Kristen Stewart is just phenomenal here. I've said this in other reviews of her films, but she's someone who I feel has received a lot of unfair hatred, mainly because people are just hung up over the fact that she starred in Twilight, which I still haven't even seen, by the way. But she's actually a really solid actress, and this is yet another example of her skills. She has a very quiet delivery, speaking above a whisper. Diana can sometimes come off as a bit aloof, but she's trying her best to mask all this crippling anxiety she's experiencing, from dealing with her marital issues to being followed around the house and even out of the house, like when she tries to go visit her abandoned childhood home. And I thought Stewart captured that beautifully. It won't be for everyone, sure, as her performance, as well as the film itself, can feel very reserved, but I was fascinated by this insight into her psyche and thought Stewart brought that out well. Now, my only thing is, we see over the course of these 3 days, Diana is going through a lot. Between her marriage falling apart, trying to keep a healthy relationship with her kids, getting pestered by the staff, experiencing these visions, and trying to get back to her childhood home, and the film does a solid enough job of cycling through all that as much as it can without feeling overstuffed or dragging things out. I just say that the one thing that prevented me from really loving this movie is that when it comes to the soul stuff that Diana's dealing with, that works well. Like the arc about her trying to get into her childhood home and these visions she's experiencing, those were all done well. But Anything involving her marriage or her kids, or anything that focused on her interactions with others, those could have been a little better if I had to be honest. I think what it is that we see everything almost strictly through Diana's point of view, which is great because this is ultimately about her, but with a lot of the story involving her feeling isolated from others and cut off from everyone, we as the audience also feel cut off from pretty much any character who isn't her. Performance-wise, the rest of the cast does a fine enough job. Timothy Spall in particular is great, and I'm not saying we needed to get too in-depth with every single side character and take the focus away from Diana, but there were several integral moments crucial to Diana's arc that didn't feel like they had quite as much of an impact emotionally. And that's because some of these side characters just didn't feel as strong of a presence as I think they needed to be. We'll have some scenes, for example, where we can feel the tension in the room between Charles and Diana, but he feels like he just comes and goes so quietly all throughout the film, and he feels like a distant presence that when it gets to certain plot details surrounding him later on, it's not as emotionally resonant as it should have been. Same with her kids. There are some nice moments with them at various points, and they can feel sweet. But again, these moments aren't explored as in depth as these more isolated moments with Diana on her own. So when we get to certain plot points later on in the film that are meant to have a big impact, it doesn't work as well. It's still a solid narrative when it all comes together, and I liked it, but I think it could have hit a little harder. Spencer is a solid film, and one that I'm sure we'll hear plenty of come award season, and rightfully so, mainly for Kristen Stewart's hypnotic lead performance, in what's one of her best roles to date. The film also works well for Pablo Larraín's direction, giving it the feel of a psychological horror movie and going against several biographical drama tropes. I'd say it's just a good film in the end, though, rather than great, as there were several storylines that I don't think had as deep of an impact as they should have, due to the way the film's structured and the way it cuts several key players off emotionally. But still, it's an entrancing, well-crafted film that I think is definitely worth a watch. Spencer gets a 7.5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see Spencer, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Was this one of your favorite historical dramas? Was it one of your favorite Kristen Stewart movies? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.